Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel and another video. We're back in Bitwig today and we're going to be taking a look at creating a sort of performance effect rack. Very much the same as something like Stutter Edit or Native Instruments The Finger, whereby you have a selection of effects, sort of performance-based effects with some automation and things like that, that we can trigger from a set of pads or from a keyboard whilst the track is playing. And we want to also be able to record that so we can sort of lay that down in a track as well if we do come up with something cool. So let's get into this. It's a fairly simple setup. I'm going to be doing this pretty much entirely with Bitwig stock plugins. I may just use some of the built-in stuff from the Bitwig library, some of the built-in racks and devices. But let's get into the sort of basic setup here. It's pretty simple. We're going to use a modulator and a FX selector, which is going to make this all possible. I'm just going to first add a new MIDI channel here as well. On this MIDI channel, I'm going to bring in a quantize. And this is just to make sure that whenever we trigger something, it's going to be triggering on a note. It's going to be live quantizing any of our inputs. We'll set that to 16th notes. And this is where we're going to trigger the effects from. The actual effect we're going to put in here is going to be an FX selector. And we want an audio effects there. So let's just go to that one. And open up the modulator section here. We're going to be using a modulator called Pitch 12. Bring that in and let's open that up. And you can see that current corresponds to a octave on your keyboard. So whenever you press something, you'll activate this modulation value to whatever you assign that to. So in order to get this to work, you can do this live on the actual audio track here. By assigning a MIDI input to this, you may want to just convert this to a hybrid track. This is a hybrid track currently. If this is an audio track, you may want to convert to a hybrid track so that you can bring notes into this. But the problem with that is that we can't sort of layer notes on top of our audio. So if we want to actually record any of the changes that we do and finalize them in a track, you're not going to be able to do that like this. So what we're going to do is set up a trigger channel here. We're going to send this MIDI to the input of our breakbeat track there. And this is the sound that we're working with. And we'll be able to trigger it from this one. You'll just need to make sure that the record arm is on. So to do that, we're just going to click on our quantize channel that we've made here, and under this output section here, master, we're going to go notes to tracks, not this one. So that's going to send the audio input. So we're going to send notes to tracks, notes to the breakbeat that we have set up there. And now we can work on this. Just make sure that you have this one enabled so that the inputs are being actually recorded or activated on that channel as well. So we've got our FX selector here. You can see now when I'm playing notes on my drum pads, it's triggering specific notes in this modulator here. And we can now start layering up our effects. So the first effect we're going to leave is the default one, which is going to be blank. It's basically going to be a pass-through for the effect. You could actually... it makes it simpler if you just do this. You could actually automate mix controls with these as well, but I think if you just leave this as a blank one, that will be a lot simpler to set up. You want to add in a second one. I'll come back and add in these effects afterwards. We're just going to get the actual setup sorted first. So our C note down here, the first one here, is going to trigger that. So we need to modulate the selection. And you want to do these one at a time. It's easier to do it like that because you can just basically drag this to its extremity. You'll see it'll just stop there. It'll move by one index point. So it'll go from layer 1 to layer 2. And that's it. So you'll see now when we hold that down, that layer becomes active. And now it's not. This is the default one will be on. That just goes on for a second and then comes back off again. So we can continue here now. We'll just add in a second layer. And now we'll move to this one, yeah? So we'll just do that and we'll drag it up to extremities. See, by default, it stops at 2 because there's only 2 more there. So it's just a lot easier to do it that way. That one's working now. Let's add in a third one, or a fourth layer to be exact. That'll be our D. And we want to just modulate that one too. We'll add in a fifth. Let's modulate this one. So we'll stop there for now. Let's just take a look at what we've got. We've got our selectors all mapped to our drum pads. Now we can start working with our layers. So for example, we can start loading in some effects here now on layer 1. And let's bring in a delay. Let's come back to that. So let's bring in a delay here. I'm going to bring in the delay 1. Let's set that to 1. And the cool thing that we can do with this now is stuff like feedback, for example. We can really max that out because as soon as you bring that note off again, it's going to bring it back. So what we can do is we can set the feedback down to 0. We'll take this off and set our mix to maybe 50%. We can play around with that as well. And let's also assign this one to the feedback. So we can make the feedback maxed out completely, but it's not going to continue to feedback because as soon as we release that, it'll just bring it back again. So it's like a nice delay throw that we've got there. So let's check that out. There we go. So that's one down. Let's move on to the next one. We'll try something different here. So for example, we could actually put some automation into these as well. Let's bring in a filter and we'll leave this as a low pass filter. Just make sure that's disabled. Low pass filter, a bit of resonance. I'm going to bring in a bit 8 on this one as well. And let's just group these two together so I can put modulation for both of them at the same time. We're going to add a modulator here. We'll add in a LFO. Let's get our LFO set up. And we'll use a saw wave for this, or a ramp, I should say. And we'll just set that to straight. So it's going to come up there. We're going to have this set to just 1 bar. And we want to make sure that this is not free running, because I want this to instantiate itself or initiate when we trigger the effect. So we're going to set this to note resets phase on new notes, which means as soon as we hit that down, it's going to start from the beginning of the LFO and run through that. Now we can assign our LFO to our filter, for example. And let's just bring this over, take a listen to... I'm also going to make this unipolar. There we go. And what we can do there is maybe bring this clock up as well. Let's just assign that one again to the clock. And maybe bring the mix down to, bring it backwards as that kicks in. So now, let's take a listen to that again. There we go, pretty cool. We can do a whole bunch of other stuff with this too, like adding in some reverb fills, or just reverb automation from these sequences as well. Let's jump into layer 4 here. We'll add in a reverb. Right, so I don't want that to be on the whole time. We also want to make sure that the reverb's not constantly running here as well. So we're just dialing up the mix. This is being processed the entire time until that effect. Let's take a look here. Okay, that's fine. It's only sending signal when we trigger that, which is fine. So we don't need to actually add in a tool there to stop it from sending signals. Normally, if this was in a chain, and you have the mix set down, it's still processing the reverb. It only brings it into the signal when you bring it in. So a lot of the reverb tails from further back in the track would still be there. In this case, it's only going to signal once we route this effect in. which is fine, but I also don't want it to be so abrupt. That's when we kind of add in a fade into this one too. So we'll do, once again, LFO. And we could actually just copy, we'll just pop in an LFO again, yeah. And again, we'll just set this to 1 bar. We'll keep it on ramp again. And we're going to change the shape a little bit here, maybe. We'll do that. And again, we want this to sync to note and unipolar. So we can add in a little bit of fade into our reverb here now. Maybe set this to a half note instead. Maybe not quite that full, and then I'll also put in like a compressor here just to kind of squash that reverb. So you can hear we're kind of getting the reverb tail going out there as well. What I'm going to do is set the output of my compressor to, or we could actually add in a tool here too for this. So if we take the tool and set our volume to 0, and then come back and we'll set, let me just get this a little bit smaller here, we'll set the trigger to our volume, to send that back up to 0. So as soon as we release the trigger, it's effectively going to mute. There we go. So now it's muting the tail as soon as we release that that pad. The last one, let's just bring in something from the library. Let's Stutter presets. Let's go with Beat Stutter. And we could add in some extra stuff to this as well. Let's say, for instance, we wanted to maybe add in a little bit of auto panning. We could just do an LFO for this one. And I mean, you could kind of really go to town. There's no limits to the kind of stuff that you could do here. We'll set this to 1/8 notes, and I need to just bring in a tool for this. And we'll just group these two together again so they can share the... In actual fact, I should have done that before the time. We'll just actually move this one to... we can use this one to just pan this left and right a little bit. Cool. And I mean, I'm going to stop there because we could just keep continuing with putting in different effects and things. There's a ton of stuff that you could do. Maybe just, let's just do 1 or 2 more. Just do some fairly easy ones to put together. We'll add in a phaser plus here. And this one should be 1, 2, 3, 4. It should be this one here. We'll add this by doing that. And maybe just one more. Let's add in maybe a comb filter. Or in actual fact, let's do a filter. duplicate the filter. Actually, we can just use a bandpass, that's fine. We'll do that. Just get rid of that one again. Turn that off. Use a bandpass filter. Saturation to this. Something like that. So now we've got a whole bunch of stuff to play with. You can save this out as a device, and let's just mess around with this quickly. Cool, there you go. So you could actually start playing around with random modulators as well, which would kind of give you different start points for all of the automation things as well. Like what we're doing here with that one, we could do stuff like, let's just jump into our saturator. For example, we could have this starting at a different point every time it plays another pad sound. So let's just add in a random modulator here quickly as well. We'll assign this to our bandpass here. I don't want it to move around too much, so we'll leave it on sample and hold like that, square one, but we'll just set this to a full bar. And now down at the bottom here, we want to make sure that this is set to note. So each reset of phase with a new note is going to give you a new random value. So listen to this now. Pretty cool and super fun to play around with. You can get some really cool stuff by just playing live. And of course, like I said, the reason we set this up here is that we can record all of this now. So if we are messing around with our track, let's just give ourselves a little bit more room to play here and set our loop point to that. Let's just bring this up again for you guys. I did read the comments about you not being able to see them, so I've got some shortcuts set up now that I can just bring up the scaling of the interface at any given time. But now we can hit record here, and we could do that inside of scenes like this even if you wanted to, because then you could actually play back recorded scenes afterwards too. So we'll actually do it like that. Let's I'll just use my controller here. We'll set up a macro. And let's do another one. So now I've got like a selection of little fills that we've recorded in here now, and we can actually just anytime drop these in here and use them in an arrangement, and anytime that will work as well. I'm going to set that back to arrange view. There you go. So you can use those as little fills just by dropping the MIDI sections into that trigger track. And then, of course, if you don't want to use those, you can just go straight into the arrange page. Hit record and... And also because of our quantizer, everything's nice and neat and quantized in there. You can go to town with playing around with these effects. Cool, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I will make this preset available to my Patreon subscribers. Go check out the link there. There's a ton of presets available to you guys as well. If you are in the Patreon, or subscribe to the Patreon page. I'm adding new stuff all the time. I've got a bunch of pigments presets that are going to go up soon. That was one of the requested synths on the Patreon page. And yeah, go check it out. If you feel like supporting the channel, that's the way to do it. Or you can still buy some of my sound libraries directly from the website, also in the links below. I'll catch you guys soon on the channel. Till then, take care. Cheers.